I don't often get overtly political in my videos, but I'm going to make an exception today. There's a problem that we have, particularly in America, but really in the entire modern world and probably everywhere, but especially in our technological societies. We have a systemic violation of God's principles, a systemic injustice. It pervades everything we do, and most of us aren't even aware of it. And it's not just one thing, it covers a broad spectrum of our behaviors. I'm going to start, let me start out by reading something from Proverbs. I'm going to read Proverbs 11, chapter 1. Dishonest scales are an abomination to Yahweh, but a just weight is his delight. And then again in chapter 20, verse 10, diverse weights and diverse measures, they are both alike an abomination to Yahweh. So diverse weights and measures. Literally, this refers to the weights you would use on a scale when you're trading something in a marketplace. Say you're selling some grain or some fruits or vegetables or meat or whatever to somebody else, and they're giving you silver or gold or something in exchange. You weigh these things out. And this is prohibiting swapping the weights when you weigh one or the other. Say you use lighter weights when you weigh the amount of produce that you're selling so that it balances out and you're not giving the customer as much produce. But then you use heavier weights when they measure out their silver or gold so that they have to give you more currency in order to buy your product. Or you swap out the weights for different customers. You use lighter weights for some customers, heavier weights for another customer, so that you're dealing with people differently. This is what it means to use differing weights and measures. And this is specifically talked about in Leviticus. It's Leviticus 19. And I'm going to read a little bit more than the one verse because I want to make sure you get the context of it. Oops, got the wrong page. Leviticus 19, verses 33 through 37. And if a stranger dwells with you in your land, you shall not mistreat him. The stranger who dwells among you shall be to you as one born among you, and you shall love him as your neighbor, or as yourself. For you are strangers in the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your God. You shall do no injustice in judgment, in measurement of length, weight, or volume. You shall have honest scales, honest weights, an honest ephah, and an honest hin. I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe all my statutes and all my judgments and perform them. I am Yahweh. So God is saying that you aren't supposed to treat people differently. You're supposed to use the same standards when you make a deal with your cousin as you do when you make a deal with a foreigner. And you do this because God's people were once slaves in Egypt where they were mistreated, and the Egyptians used different measures and weights when dealing with the Hebrews as they did with dealing with Egyptians. God says you're not supposed to do that. And he says, you don't do that because I am Yahweh your God. Meaning, this is not how God behaves. God treats everybody alike. He judges them all according to their faith and their deeds. It doesn't matter whether you're a Hebrew or a Gentile, you will be judged by your behavior and your faith in God. So, getting back to modern politics, one way that this principle comes into play, and most of us don't even think about it or even understand how it works, is with our currency. We use what's called a fiat currency, which means there's nothing backing it. It's just paper and cotton and some plastic. And we all agree, or it's not even that. Sometimes it's just bits in a computer. More often that's the case. And we all just agree what it's worth. We say that, so many bits in the computer are worth so many hours of your time or so many widgets. The problem is that sometimes we then change the value of the bits or the pieces of paper. We print a bunch more paper, or we generate a bunch more bits out of nothing, and we put them out in the marketplace, and all of a sudden, all of the ones that are already out there are now worth less. So you made a deal last week to exchange a certain amount of value next week, but then the things that you're trading for the value next week are now different. But you're still getting the same products or the same service in return. This is an unjust weight. Our entire banking system is built on sin. It's built on transgression of God's principles. And we've got a serious problem there. There are other ways that we are doing this. I mean, outside of just trade, in Leviticus, God is saying you're not supposed to treat people differently. You judge them the same. In Yeshua talked about this in, go to Matthew 7. Matthew 7, 1 through 5. Judge not that you be not judged, for with what judgment you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured back to you. And why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but do not consider the plank in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me remove the speck from your eye, and look, a plank is in your own eye? Hypocrite! First remove the plank from your own eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. So you can see that from God's standards, just weights and measures is more than about trading grain or fruit in the marketplace. It's about how you treat each other. It's about judging each other's character. It's about judging each other's behavior. If you're going to hold someone else up to a particular standard, you have to be willing to be held to that same standard. And let's talk about a few ways that we really break this commandment in modern society. Besides fiat currency, we are constantly moving the goalposts. If you're not familiar with that term, what it means is that you tell somebody, here's what you need to do to win this argument or to get this reward or whatever. They do that and you say, oh no, I didn't mean that. I meant this other thing. You need to do this a little bit more. And then they do that. You say, well, do a little bit more. Do this other thing. You're moving the goalposts. This is unjust weights and measures. We do this a lot in race. Race and gender, however you want to define those words. We say, if you only do this, that will set everything right. We'll all be even. So we do that. Well, then the next year, oh no, everything is so unjust. Everything is so unfair. If you just do this, then everything will be right again. So then we do that. And then the next year, same thing over again, over and over and over. It's never enough. It will never be enough until one people is supreme over the other people, because it's never about fairness. It's never about justice. It's about getting one over on the other guy, which is exactly what God said we're not supposed to do. If we are his people, we use the same measure for each other, no matter whether we like each other, no matter whether we're the same skin color. If I'm a racist because I think white people are better than purple people, well, then purple people are racist for thinking purple people are better than white people or should be treated differently. It doesn't matter if you think some injustice has been done and now we need to treat these people extra special to make up for all the times they were not treated special before. It's not the way it works. If you love your neighbor, no matter who they are, you treat them the same. If one person is a racist for believing that a different race is inferior, then that other race is also racist for believing that the first one is inferior or evil or whatever word you want to use. You can't say that this guy is a devil for calling that guy a devil, but that guy's not a devil for calling him a devil. You have to use the same measures, no matter who you're talking about, no matter how you feel about it, no matter whether you like them or not. You use the same standards of justice across the board. Doesn't matter if you're a minority or majority, if you're rich or poor. You do not show favoritism to the poor or the underdog just because he's poor or the underdog. You can't twist justice in favor of somebody who was a victim of injustice in the past. You champion justice, no matter who is at fault, no matter who is accused, no matter who has been harmed, whatever their skin color, whatever their religion, you use the same standards across the board. Anything else is a violation of God's standards from beginning to end. Yahweh said it in the wilderness. Solomon said it from his throne room in Jerusalem. Yeshua said it from Jerusalem. I made a point of talking about race there, but race isn't the only way we do this. I mean, obviously, I mentioned gender, and of course, so-called gay rights is another place where this happens all the time. One thing that liberals will like to say is that we can make laws based on the greater good. So we can force you to do things that we normally wouldn't have any right to force you to do because it's for the greater good. We can force you to pay for abortion, or we can force you to send your kids to this school, or we can force you to, wear a purple robe today because somehow that is for the greater good. Everybody benefits from it. But I know for 100% fact, it is for the greater good to eliminate homosexuality from the face of the earth. God says that that deserves death. This is a serious crime. And he says that these kinds of behaviors, it poisons the land. It will destroy a culture. It is far more dangerous than, take your pick. There's so many things to choose from. You can't say, I've got a right to force you to behave in some certain way, or to wear something or contribute to a particular cause because it's for the greater good, but you don't have a right to force me to do the same. It doesn't work that way. You've got to use the same standards of justice for everybody. We do the same thing when judging politicians. Conservatives will frequently attack liberals and say, you people tax and spend, and you raise the taxes, you make it harder to do business. You're always meddling in everybody else's politics, so you cause all kinds of international problems. And then their own guy gets in the White House or whatever office and does the exact same things. And they cheer him on and support him 100%. Oh yeah, he's doing it right, finally. He's doing the same thing or worse than the other guy did. It's just not right. We have to use the same standards of justice across the board. We're all guilty of this to an extent because we all have blind spots. We're all hypocrites. We have to accept that. But we don't have to leave it the way it is. We need to work on our own lives to make sure that we are treating other people, even the people we don't like, even the people we don't agree with the same standards that we apply to our best friends and especially to ourselves. Same standard you use to judge others will be used to judge you one way or another. This is Jake Harper from American Torah. Be blessed.